The people in the back, can you hear me clearly? Okay, good. Have you ever had question in mind for so long that it becomes part of how you think? Maybe even part of who you are a person. Well, I've had a question in my mind for many years. And that is, how can you speed up learning? Now, this is an interesting question because if you speed up learning, you can spend less time at school. And if you learn real fast, you probably won't have to go to school at all. Now, when I was young, school was sort of okay, but I won quite often that school got in the way of learning. So I had this question in mind: how do you learn faster? And this began was I very young. When I was 11 years old, I led a letter to readers in the Soviet Union asking about Hinopedia. This is sleep learning, where you get a tape recorder, you put it best your bed, and it turns on in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, and you're supposed to be learning from this. A good idea, unfortunately, it doesn't work. But Hinopedia did open the doors to research in the other areas. And we have had incredible discoveries about learn that began with that first question. I want on from there to become passionate about psychology. And I have been involved in psychology in many different ways for the rest of my life up until this point. In 1981, I took myself to China and I decided that I was going to be I never really got very good at it. And I also went with a different idea, which was looking all of the conclusions from psychological research up to that point and applying them to the learning process. What was really cool was in 6 months I was fluent in Mandarin Chinese, and it looked a little bit long to get up to native. But I looked around and I saw all of those people from different countries strongly tribal with Chinese. I saw Chinese people strongly from to learn English and other language. And so my question got rewind down to how can you help a normal adult learn a new language quickly, easily, and effectively? Now, this is a really important question in today's world. We have massive challenge with environment. We have massive challenge with social dislocation. with words, all sorts of things going on. And if we can communicate. So, let me remind everybody of the history of human progress. It's all about expanding our limits. How does Civi fly? We have gone even farther so can fly a car. We now have cars in the world that fly. And there's a different way to play which we have learned from squirrels. So all you need to do is copy what this playing squirrel does. Build a suite called a wing suite and off you go. You can fly like a squirrel. No, most people, a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody. But a lot of people think they can draw. However, there are some key principles, 5 principles that you can apply to learn to draw, and you can actually learn to draw in 5 days. So if you draw like this, you learn those principles for 5 days and apply them, and after 5 days you can draw something like this. Now I know this is true because that was my first drawing. And after 5 days of applying those principles, that was what I was able to be, and I looked at this and I went, "Whoa! So that's how I look like when I'm concentrating so intensely that my brain is exploding." So anybody can learn to draw in 5 days and in the same way with the same logic. Anybody can learn and second language in 6 months. How? There are 5 principles and 7 actions. There might be a few more, but those are absolutely core, and before I get into those, I just want to talk about 2 myths. I want to disable 2 myths. The first is that you need talents. Let me tell you about Zoo. Zoo came from Australia, went to Holland, was trying to learn that. Struggling extremely critical, and finally people were saying you are completely useless. You are not talented. Give up. You're a waste of time. And she was very, very depressed. And then she came across those 5 principles. So moved to Brazil and she applied them, and in 6 months she was fluent in Portuguese. So talent doesn't matter. People also think that immersions in a new country is the way to learn a language. But look around Hong Kong, look at all the Westerns who have been here for 10 years who don't speak a word of Chinese. Look at all the Chinese living in America, Britain, Australia, Canada, have been 3, 10, 20 years, and they don't speak any English. Immersions per she does not work. Why? Because a drowned man cannot to learn to swim. When you don't speak a language, you are like a baby. And if you drop yourself into context, which is all adults talking about stuff over you had you one learned. So, what are the five principles that do you need pay attention to? First, the four word. Attentions, meaning, relevance, and memory. And thus interconnect in very important ways, especially when you are talking about learning. Come with me a dawn through a forest. You go on walk through a forest and you see something like this, little marks on a tree. Maybe you pay attention, maybe you don't. You go another 50 meters and you see this. So, there are five principles that you need to work with, seven actions. If you do any of them, you are going to improve. And remember, these are things under your control and as the learner. Do them all and you're going to be fluent in second language in 6 months. Thank you.